Welcome, everybody. Another amazing interview I have lined up. This is an interview that has been in my mind since I started, which was over a year and a half ago. This is an interview I never thought was going to happen. If you would have told me this a year and a half ago, guys, I would have said it's never going to be possible, but it is, and it's incredible. My guest is somebody that changed my life, changed the way I looked at things in the world. And as you guys know, I've always been somebody, I've told you since I was little, who's always been searching for knowledge, searching for truth, and asking questions. And over the years, lots of research I've done, and I kind of akin it to having all the pieces of a puzzle, but not knowing what the puzzle even looks like. So trying to put these pieces together without any idea. And when I came across my guest's work, I saw the full tapestry. As I listened to his podcast, I watched his presentations, the tapestry slowly started to appear. And that is what I have to thank my guests for during this interview, because it was their work that actually put this whole picture together and really started to see the big picture. So I just want to let everybody know, my guest, I'm so excited. They do have the podcast, What on Earth is Happening. They have also the One Great Work Network, which has over 75 amazing content creators there, guys, doing amazing work. They also have the class, How to Become the True Media, which I did take last year and graduated from, an intense class online, which is incredible. And then he's done so many presentations, I can't even name them all, but some of them are Fake Ass Anarchists, Streetwise Spirituality, New Age Bullshit, and the Suppression of the Sacred Masculine. And the one that changed my life for sure, and the first one I ever found, was his one on the natural law and what it all is. So his natural law presentation is a long one, 8 hours, but you must see it, guys. It is incredible. So with all of that out of the way, I just want to go ahead, welcome my guest, Mark Passio. Thank you so much for being here. You have no idea how excited I am.
Rick, thank you for the invite to be on the show. Pleasure to be here.
So much going on, Mark. I mean, I got some points here, but I mean, the world is crazy. And as I was saying, your work definitely changed my life and how I look at things. And it's incredible. It really did give me a big picture, and you kind of put all of these pieces together that I was having trouble fitting. I was always looking for information, seeking it out, but it's hard to see the great big picture of things, and your work really breaks that down. So that I wanted to thank you for right at the beginning.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I mean, that's, for me, that is the intention of my work, is to help everybody to see how seemingly disparate and non-interconnected things are really related to each other, and we have to study things from a holistic perspective. So hearing you say that, that really means a lot, and I want to thank you for that.
Awesome. Yeah. And so let's just, I do have some listeners. I know I've tried to get them to listen to your work, and as soon as I bring up the natural law presentation, they go, oh my God, it's 8 hours. And so I just want to bring up, can you maybe give everybody a short background about, who you were as a younger person, how you got into doing the work that you're doing, and that way people can get to know you a little bit.
Sure. Well, I relate this account in my podcast series and some of my presentations. I'll try to keep it brief. Basically, in my youth, I became disillusioned with organized religion. I was basically seeking answers like yourself. And when I, asked people who I considered back then that were people that I thought that had answers or that I could trust, they didn't really provide any answers that were meaningful to me, and really fell back on pure faith-based assumptions and just doing what they were told, just sort of going along to get along. My family, I came from a traditional Roman Catholic, Italian, American background in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the United States. And basically, my family were generally the kind of people that didn't really rock the boat too much, didn't really ask deep questions, that they weren't looking for the truth. And they just basically took the answers that religion gave them as, this is just how it is, and we'll just accept these and, try to just live a, decent life, but not really concern ourselves with anything much deeper than that. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was inadequate. And upon really reaching like sort of, the age of reason and realizing I'm not going to get answers from family, nor was I going to get them from clergy or teachers, because they were basically doing the same exact thing as basically following a religious-based faith, purely based on faith, not any actual knowledge about the world and how it really works. This all turned into a lot of anger for me as a young man, in my early teen years. And I externalized that anger by going out and seeking answers in what I then at the time considered to be the polar opposite of religious thought. So I was looking for, give me the exact opposite of this. If this is what religion says the world is, then I want to gravitate toward the opposite of that, something that totally flies in the face of all world organized religion. And I found that in the form of Satanism and dark occultism. I started studying dark occultism, and we can get into what the occult is, but essentially this is hidden knowledge about how the human psyche works, how the laws of nature work. And I gravitated toward, again, a very dark form of occultism, which is Satanism, and specifically the type was LaVeyan Satanism, as propagated by the former, or the actual founder of the Church of Satan, the former high priest of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey. And I started espousing this worldview and ideology in my early teen years. And I started basically writing about Satanism. I wrote articles in small magazines, small fanzines, they called them. They're like magazines put out by fans of music. And, I had a band at the time, and we espoused the Satanic ideology. I was the main lyricist. I was the founder of the band and the lyricist for it. And so I injected Satanic ideology and thought into my lyrics in the band. And basically my writing, espousing Satanism, and my lyrics and my band's success at the time basically garnered the attention of members of the Church of Satan. I was a member already of the Church of Satan. I had joined it as a rank and file member. A lot of people don't realize there's a few ranks in the Church of Satan. There's not many. There's regular member, which is the bottom. That's as low as you go, without not being a member at all, not joining it. So I joined it and I was a member. Above that, you have the rank of regular priest or priestess. So this is not high priest or priestess. This is just regular priest or priestess. You are considered clergy. You are considered someone who can act within the capacity of clergy, and you could act as a spokesperson for the religion as a whole, like in interviews, in official writings, officially representing the religion. Okay. Above that, you have magister and magistra. So this is like a commander of other priests. This would be like, like a lieutenant, over the privates, right? So, the magister or magistra directs other priests and priestesses. They're a higher ranking. You consider them like cardinals in the Roman Church. Okay. So, above that, then there's a ruling council. There's a council that directs and organizes the structure of the Church of Satan, and basically sets agendas and decides where they want to take things. So that's the Council of Nine. That is 9 high-level magister and magistras that basically act in the capacity of this sort of a senate, if you want to look at it that way. And then above them is the executive of the whole organization, the founder at the time, the high priest. So high priest is the highest rank. So if you look at that, there's really only 5 levels of hierarchy. There's member, priest, magister, magistra, or priest, priestess, magister, magistra, council of 9, and high priest. LaVey was the high priest, and he recognized some of my work at the time. This was back in the early 90s. Maybe like around 92, 93, something like that. And, basically, he finally appointed me a priest after, basically my involvement within, espousing this religion and writing about it, and, putting works out into society espousing this ideology, which again we can get into what Satanism is as an ideology. But basically, my writings and music were recognized by LaVey, and he appointed me himself to the rank of priest. I did not specifically go out requesting or asking for that appointment, but I considered it at that time a very high honor, that the high priest of the Church of Satan, like not even like, another priest or another magister or one of the Council of Nine, like the actual high priest himself actually got in touch with me and took notice of what I was doing, and liked my work that I had been putting out there regarding Satanism, and appointed me to the position of regular priest. So I joined the clergy of the Church of Satan in my youth, and I basically was then offered a grotto, which is a coven of Satanism that you run locally. So a priest or a priestess is empowered to organize and run a grotto. That's what they call their covens. Would be the equivalent of a coven in something like witchcraft or Wiccan. And I rejected the idea to begin my own coven or my own grotto, because I looked at Satanism back then as a very individualistic thing that I did not want to turn into for myself a group dynamic. Instead, I accepted basically going to and participating in group rituals and meetings of other grottos in my tri-state area. I did not want to get involved with the responsibility of heading a grotto, but I did accept basically information on where I could find and communicate with grottos in my area, and then attend them and see what they were doing and how they organized themselves and what kind of things that they were getting into. And when I began attending these meetings and rituals, it was not anything like I thought it was going to be. It was not like just individuals into Satanism that were trying to gain knowledge about, how they could get a better leg up on their fellow human being in society. It was a very tight-knit, cohesive group of people working through a worldwide hierarchical network that had already infiltrated and had many people in point positions of power in all of the institutions of a worldly society that you could possibly imagine.
Wow.
So there was bankers showing up at these meetings and rituals. There were certain politicians, judges, lawyers, cops, military members, educators like teachers and principals of schools.
That's
people
scary, Mark.
in music, people in entertainment. You name the institutional walk of life. Every institution, there were Satanists at very influential positions of power, all taking part in the mass dynamic, the group dynamic of participating in satanic grottos, in these meetings and rituals that many Satanists from all over the area would gather at and attend. And when I realized that these people were working together for a very specific purpose, which was to create a worldwide system by which they would become the unquestioned rulers of society, and everybody else would be placed under their thumb as a slave or a servant. That's when I started developing a deep moral problem with all of it, because I didn't sign up for the enslavement of humanity. I signed up for gaining knowledge that the average person doesn't have to get a leg up in my own life, as far as like, maybe if I know certain things that other people don't know about how influence works, I may be able to manipulate a job interview, or maybe play certain things that enhance my personal gain, like finance, etc.
Make some connections along the way, not enslave humanity.
When I found out what these people were doing was increasing their own power and influence at the expense of other people's freedom, and their natural rights. I had a big problem with it, and I started really being uncomfortable. And I was still actually going to some of these meetings and rituals just to see what they were doing, talking about what their mindset was, gaining some understanding of where these people are at, what their capabilities are. And I mean, I have to tell you that to this day, they're still the most intelligent, most intellectual, most driven people that I've ever been in a room with. I cannot even begin to tell you how highly organized, cunning, and just all on the same page these people are. It's really nothing like the movement of people who want freedom, what we call the freedom movement today, which is very disjointed and scattered and not on the same page ideologically in many, many cases. And these people were entirely different than that. These people, they act as one. They act as if it's one mind. Like they literally act together so cohesively that it is as if they are acting of one mind, that they are one being.
Wow.
It's truly amazing how on the same page they are ideologically and with their behaviors.
For sure.
There's like hardly any contradiction between the way that they think, the way that they feel, and then their behaviors, their actions in the world are very, very, very tightly knit together. And so that makes them powerful. That makes them be able to accomplish things, to do things, to enact agendas, to get things done. Whereas in our community, you see very little of that. You see a lot of talk. You see a lot of people not on the same page, arguing amongst each other, not really ever being unified in their philosophy. And then their actions are scattered and all over the place.
That's so
and
true.
Nobody's acting of one accord to actually accomplish something in the world cohesively. So I just wanted to say that about them. But how I got out was I just expressed interest in leaving and saying, I'm not really comfortable with this morally. I was not coerced to stay. A lot of people find that very hard to believe. But as I tell people, unless you're involved in their own crimes, which I was not at this time, if you don't participate in these people's criminal behavior, and so to speak, you don't know where the bodies are buried, right? Then it's not like a mafia in that sense. Only when you take oaths of allegiance and loyalty to them, which they consider a blood oath, which they consider an unbreakable bond, an unbreakable vow. If you say, I'm fully on your team, I'm on your side, I consider myself family with you, I consider myself, soul partners in our endeavors, and I'm fully in. Which I never spoke any words to that effect. I never took any vows of allegiance to them. I was a rank and file member at the lowest level observing.
Right. And so when you wanted to leave, they were like, okay. Like they
were like, don't let that door hit you in the ass on the way out. But,
wow.
I mean, literally, there's the door. Get the fuck out.
Wow.
Just like that.
That's incredible.
And go and do your worst. You think you're going to tell people what you've observed here, what you know about the world, what you've seen. They're not going to believe you. They said you are not going to accomplish anything by telling people what you've seen. You are going to bang your head against the wall for the rest of your life until the day you die. It was literally the words spoken to me. Literally said to me. One Satanist said to me upon realizing that I was done and I was walking away, said, you think you're going to go and explain to people what all of this is and how this works, and from your perspective, even your low-level knowledge of this compared to where it really goes and how it's really organized and structured. You're going to go and tell people what you've seen and your understanding of all of this. They said, we understand how this is all fits together from a total worldwide perspective. We could tell you all the names, all the companies, all the organizations, all the people, exactly the ways that we did everything that we did over the centuries through our family bloodlines. He said if we went on the nightly news every night, night after night after night after night, and explained all of those things to the human population, they would not accept it or believe it from us. That's how in a trance mind state they are. They are in a
Wow.
completely entranced mind state. And these people don't understand anything about how the world works. They said if we ourselves in mass, all the highest levels of us, all went on the news night after night after night after night and tried to explain to the dumb population how all of this works and how we already control the world. We're already in control. We're not seeking control. We are already in control. And how we organized all of that control, how we gained all of that influence, the methods by which we did it, there would be no possibility that they would ever accept it from us, let alone from you.
That is so incredible, and it says so much, Mark. Because you bring up great points. Because I think when people think, and I've run into this, I was telling you myself, when I speak about Satanism and that, I always get and I'm sure you've heard this. You get this Hollywood variant that people think that's what they're dealing with, and I think that's probably the greatest trick that they've pulled on people, is having people believe that they're just, they're out in robes, and I'm sure that's a part of it, that, there is a ritualistic part of it. But I think that's what people really think when you speak of Satanism and they talk about it, is that's what we're up against. It's just a bunch of disorganized people in graveyards doing the weird things, and it's so much more than that, the way you're explaining it.
I'm telling people that you are more likely to encounter true Satanists espousing the actual satanic mindset and ideology, which is a way of being in the world, in the Fortune 500 companies and major, central banks and politics and government and religion than you would teenagers out in the forest doing some stupid ritual sacrifice, in black robes.
That's kind of like the introduction, I think. That's where the introduction process starts, to get people into their ranks.
Correct. To just get people interested in any dark aspects of occultism in general, which is what I was when I was young. I just was like disillusioned with organized religion, and I wanted the polar opposite of it. And I didn't care what form it came in as an ignorant young man. I was just in a state of angst, rebelling against what my family upbringing handed to me because they didn't know any better.
Right, and you're saying that, and then you were just saying that you'd probably more likely to run into a person with a satanic mindset in a Fortune 500 company or around the world, even probably people maybe that we know. What do you mean by? Can you explain the satanic mindset?
Sure. And this has been the most difficult thing that I've done in my work, is try to get people to understand what Satanism really is versus what they believe it to be. The general tenets of the satanic ideology, you could call it the satanic religion because it does have religious, ritualistic components to it, but it is generally a worldview and an ideology. It's a way of looking at the world and a way of acting in the world, right? So that's the first thing to understand, is that Satanism is a mindset above all else, and these are the tenets of the mindset. Tenet number one, and above all else, egotism. The ego is God. Real modern Satanists do not worship, and I'm talking about from the perspective of the worldwide hierarchy of Satanism and dark occultism that is really running our planet. Satanists do not worship an externalized Christian-based evil deity, with horns and pitchfork and a tail and hooves, that is called the Christian devil or Satan. Satan is used in this modern form of this ideology, which has been around since humanity has been around. Doesn't matter what name it's called. As a matter of fact, they don't really call it Satanism themselves. It's not really referred to when you get into the higher, rankings of these people. They don't really call it Satanism. They call it the old religion. It's the only name I've ever heard some of the higher level Satanists refer to this mindset and ideology, because it's been here since humanity has been here.
Makes sense.
It's aeons old. It's not just, since LaVey started the Church of Satan. LaVey was given the task to compress the mindset into a book, and a couple of books, as a matter of fact, but the main book being the Satanic Bible. And that was his charge. That was his task given to him by higher ups in the Satanic hierarchy, to put that mindset and ideology out there in written form, to try to find other people who have these psychopathic tendencies and who have this sick, imbalanced mindset. So anyway, egotism is number one. It's elevating the ego to apotheosis, to the state of godhood, that you see the self as God, you see the ego as God. And it doesn't matter who you really have to step on to get your way. You know, the self and its selfish desires always come first, even if you have to step on somebody else's rights to get what you want.
Okay.
So egotism is the first tenet. And think about it. If everybody behaves like that, what kind of a society do you get? You get a totally chaotic one. You get one where nobody is really getting what they want because they're all trying to step on each other, and that's really the kind of mindset we have. Yeah. Ask yourself, how many people are in a selfish, egotistical mindset in the world? Is
most.
It way more people than not? Mm-hmm. Of course. So the second tenet is moral relativism. And this is the idea there's no objective standard of right versus wrong behavior. It's right is whatever is right for me, whatever gives me what I want, gets me to my goal, right? Mm-hmm. Wrong is whatever prevents me from getting to what I want. So there is no such thing as there's an objective moral standard of behavior based on what is actually a right action and what is actually a wrong action in objective reality. No. It's everybody can make up whatever they think is right or whatever they think is wrong based on their own perceptions, levels of comfort, their whims, their preferences, what they want. Now think about this one. How many people actually operate in the world according to that tenet? That there's no real right or wrong. It's all just a matter of perception. And what's right for me is what's right for me. What's right for somebody else is what's right for them. What's wrong for me is what's wrong for me. And what's wrong for somebody else is what's wrong for them. Yeah. And we don't have to agree on what morality is. We don't have to agree on what rights and wrongs are, right? How many people actually think that way? The majority of human beings.
Yeah. I've had people say that to me, actually, to my face. Sure. They'll say it right to my face. What you just said.
I mean, it's unbelievable how much people think right and wrong are based on perception and opinion, And, that's the second major tenet of the Satanic religion. Is moral relativism. The third tenet is social Darwinism. That is the extrusion into the human social domain of Darwin's theories on macrobiological evolution, specifically the type of behaviors that we see in the animal kingdom, like survival of the fittest, mm-hmm. which is really survival of the most ruthless, survival of the one who's willing to do the most dastardly and wicked things to the other. Yep. People say, oh, well, people say that they want to respect and observe nature. And then, they're showing a lion eating a gazelle on the plains mm-hmm. of Africa. Well, that's animal behavior. Who is saying that the respect of nature means that we should emulate animal behavior? I find high respect in the natural world. Of course, my whole work is based on what is truly a part of nature inherently versus what is an illusion or a construct of the mind. But we are not talking about, when I talk about natural law, we're not talking about Darwin's theories on survival of the fittest and, the so-called natural order. You have to throw those ideas out, but this is what the Satanists embrace. They want that whole idea of we should emulate animal behavior in the human domain. That's called social Darwinism. Social Darwinism is there should be a strata of a hierarchy and compartmentalization within human society by which we have rulers and subjects, masters and slaves. They want a pyramid-like hierarchy with masters at the top and subjects at the bottom. And that's what they consider one of their main tenets, the third tenet, social Darwinism. And that's basically what it postulates, is that a social stratification of a pecking order, so to speak, should be implemented in human society like we see in the animal kingdom, in animal hierarchies, which, nothing could be further from the truth and nothing could be more immoral, because you're basically saying you're okay with human slavery as long as the most dominant human beings come out on top of that hierarchy. That's social Darwinism. And then finally, you take all these other three, roll them up, get them rolling downhill, you come to the final solution, which is eugenics. Eugenics is the fourth and final tenet of Satanism. And that's, Well, if egotism is really all we're about and the self is God, and then, there's no right and wrong because right's whatever we say it is and wrong is whatever we say it is, moral relativism. And then we believe that we should create a social strata by which there's masters and slaves, and the most vicious should rule the roost. Then it's a hop, skip, and a jump to the rulers should be allowed to basically decide who lives and who dies.
Yep.
They should be able to cull the population any given time they want. They should be able to murder people with characteristics that they don't really want expressed in society. If they're the masters, they can do whatever they want to their property, which are the rest of their subjects. And that's eugenics. So that's the fourth and final tenet. And if you just really, really analyze people's mindset and do some social experiments to ask people where they're at mentally with all these things, you will find that most people have been inculcated into the satanic religion and mindset without ever knowing it. This is how powerful these people are. They propagate their own religion through mind control to other people, but they give them a watered down lower level variant of it, which keeps them enslaved.
Right.
Without coming out of the satanic mindset and transcending it and recognizing it for what it is, and then recognizing that the masters of the world are actually operating according to this mindset and ideology, you can never free yourself from it. You can never free society of its shackles and bonds that these people have placed over them through mind control and mental manipulation. And the lying media that they have paid for and implemented all over the world. And then, of course, the order followers. You have to extricate yourself from that mindset first, the lower level, what I call mini-me Satanism mindset.
I love that term.
that they have given us. They've given us their mind, but not from their higher level perspective understanding of Satanism. They've given us this lower level, I'm just going to act as a selfish person. I'm just going to wake up every day and think about nothing but me until the minute I go to sleep at night, and then repeat the process all over again, not caring about what's going on in the world, not caring about human rights, not caring about what is right, not caring about the difference between right and wrong behavior. No, just my base animalistic instincts. And as long as those are fulfilled, screw everybody else. That's mini-me Satanism.
Absolutely. And that's most people, Mark, in the world. If we're being honest, that's most people. I mean, I took your challenge. I always listen to your challenges, and you're like, go out and talk to people face to face, and you're going to get a good gauge of what you're dealing with. And when I did that a year and a half ago, a couple years ago now, went down and started just meeting people and talking to them and just asking them simple questions, your head will explode to what they believe.
Isn't it amazing?
It's incredible.
It's amazing the job that the higher level Satanists have done on the average person. Tell me some of the types of results that you got. I'm interested.
Oh, well, the first one I ever took was going to ask people what a right was. I'm like, that's simple enough. I'm going to go I'll go ask people what a right is. Went down and started asking people, and I never got the right answer. I always got that rights, the government is who gives us our rights.
Amazing.
That was the major one that I got. And I got a few people that said, basically society makes up the rights. Like people kind of accept.
So that's moral relativism.
Exactly.
If a human being can make up what a right is, we can say roasting babies on spits is a right now.
Yep. Absolutely.
Kidnapping a baby, popping them on a spit, putting them over a fire, and then chowing down is now a human right because a few people have come together and we've decided that's what we want to do. So we can just vote on it, or we could just say this is what's comfortable for us, and that's a right for certain people. Yep. I mean, imagine this, that people actually believe rights come from agreement.
Yep.
Picture that. Picture rights come from agreement. So I guess when it was agreed upon in Nazi Germany and enacted into law that Jews could be completely suppressed and have their rights stripped from them, I guess that became moral because it was enacted into law. I mean, just about everybody in Germany agreed, right?
Yep.
The Jews were a minority in the Third Reich. And the mass majority of people, overwhelmingly, probably over 99% of people, all came together and said, we're allowed to do this stuff to these people. Well, I guess that made it moral then. If the majority can vote on something and all agree, that's what makes something moral or not, right? I mean, imagine that this is how people still think in the modern world. Yeah. It's so unbelievable and disheartening. And what it shows you, I don't want people to get totally discouraged. I want them to realize that this means this is showing you what your work is to do.
Exactly.
How many people are morally educating people about this type of stuff? How many people are even talking about it at all? Not that many. You know, and why are so many people like that? They're like that because they haven't had the discussion and they haven't had the truth instilled into their mind at a young age by their parents and teachers. They've failed miserably at instilling morality into another human, which is what the job of the people who are supposed to be the caretakers of the youth, parents, teachers, educators, etc. That's your main job, and you're failing miserably at. You have failed miserably at it. This result is proof that they have failed miserably at doing those things.
Exactly. Yeah, and you make a great point too, because I think of a lot of the people I talk to, and just even my friends. You hear them talk about like doing whatever is good for them. Step on. If you're in a job, step on who you have to get ahead. That's just the way the world is. And it's true. It's always about what's best for them. And I
just watched a movie that was pretty strikingly powerful to me. I love allegorical films about moral lessons, and this one that I just thought was going to be some thriller movie turned out to have a pretty deep allegorical moral lesson in it. It was called The Black Demon. It's a newer film, and the main character is somebody who worked as an inspector on an oil rig, and it turns out that he fudged all the data, or allowed it to be fudged. He was going into his job with the intention of telling the truth, and he said, well, this is horribly not up to code, and this is going to cause disasters and deaths and stuff like this. This is not ecologically safe. This is not safe for the people that are going to work here. This isn't safe for the people in the surrounding environment. And he submits his reports to the company, and they basically tell him, do you like your nice, cushy job that you have that's feeding your family and providing your home and paying your bills? Because we could easily fill it with somebody else who will just write down, this is safe, this is safe, this is safe. And so he just goes along to get along, and he puts his signature on all these documents, and obviously doing the wrong moral thing that's hurting a lot of people and damaging the environment, in addition to hurting people. And, he justifies it by saying, I had to do it. This is what was going to provide for my family. This is what was going to keep me comfortable and allow me to have a wife and children and support a family. Well, that doesn't mean that it's right. Plenty of people continue to do things that are wrong just for those very justifications. That's all they are, is justifications. You're trying to say that somehow makes it right, which is what the word justification actually means, to create a right, right? You're not creating a right. You can't turn a wrong into a right. If it's morally wrong, it's always morally wrong. You're not going to turn that into a right, which, by the way, a right is an action that does not initiate harm to another sentient being. Since his behaviors were initiating harm to other sentient beings by allowing something that wasn't safe to continue to operate, then he's doing a wrong. That's not a right. All right. So, but the idea is he tries to justify it because he's getting the things that he wants out of life, just because he's signing away on those safety reports, and getting a big paycheck as a result. And, the whole thing is he's going to lose his family because they find out, and then he has to make amends and do the right thing, which is a very difficult thing to do. I won't spoil it, but it's a pretty good one.
I'm definitely going to check it out, Mark. I promise. I'm like you. I like movies like that have allegories in it and stuff, so I will check it out. I haven't heard it about that one, so I'm glad you brought that up.
The real demon is the mark on his soul, for doing what he had done all of those years. So, it just shows you this is how people think, though. That's why I liked it, because it's really making people look at their own behavior. It's like, what did you justify? What did you allow in the name of getting what you want, getting a paycheck, providing for your family. All the Nazis looked at it like that too. All the communists running gulags looked at it the same way. I have a family to support. I got to do this job, because if I don't do it, then how am I going to support my family? Where's my money going to come from? I don't know how to do anything else. This is the justification of all tyrants throughout history, of all order followers throughout human history is, I have to do this because I have a family to support. I have to do this because this is all I know. I have to do this because I'm ordered to do this by people higher up in the society. It's all part of a satanic mindset.
Right.
This is the satanic mindset. I love the name that they use for the movie because it implicates or suggests that you're serving a demonic force. And it's true. That's what real demons are. Real demons are the internal justifications that we tell ourselves when we're doing the wrong thing because we're going to get what we want on the other side. We're going to get whatever carrot is dangled before us. We're going to get whatever creature comfort is promised to us. We're going to get whatever paycheck that's going to pay all of our bills and provide all of our families' needs, our immediate families' needs from an immediate sense, an immediate perspective. This is what Satanism is. Satanism is not caring about what is right. Satanism is only caring about what you get out of something. It's only about your own selfish creature comfort. And screw what is right, screw what is moral. People, are constantly insisting, all I have to worry about is what do I get out of it on the other side? Immediate gratification. That's what Satanism ultimately is long term.
And that's where the world is at, Mark. And you make such great points, too, because I just think of everything that's going on in the world, and it's justified by following orders. And what's crazy is, and I truly want to believe that people deep down on a soul level, Mark, know that they're doing a wrong. But they, as you said, they're justifying it. And then you make great justifications that people say too, that how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to earn a living? And I just think of it as that maybe you have to stop doing this behavior and to do the right thing. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. I mean, I
That's
think,
right.
There's going to be work involved. You might have to suffer a little to get out of the job that you're in because it's an immoral job, but you have to do that and stop justifying, which most people are doing.
The answer to the world's problems largely lies in people ceasing and desisting in continuing to do the so-called job that they're already doing. I tell people, everybody is looking for a positive solution, meaning they want to hear someone say, do this step, do this behavior in this linear process, and then things will change for the better. And the answer is not a positive solution. It's a negative solution. The answer is what we must stop doing in order to improve the world. The world is not going to be improved. And I want people to really focus in and listen to what I'm saying and understand it. The world cannot be improved by doing anything new within it. There is no such thing. The world cannot be improved by a new behavior coming forward. The only way that the world can possibly ever be improved according to law, natural law, the laws of the universe, the laws of karmic consequence, is for people to say no to evil and stop doing behaviors that the mass majority of human beings are already conducting. The solution is negative. It means do not do these things any longer, regardless of what the consequence for not doing them is. And that's the problem. People will not acknowledge and face the consequence for stopping, ceasing, and desisting in evil acts. They want to continue to do evil acts to get the reward that doing the evil acts brings to them by evil people. Right. They don't want to take the short-term discomfort and possibly even suffering that will come in the wake of doing the right thing, or just forget even doing the right thing, ceasing to do the wrong thing. By not doing the wrong thing, they see suffering coming their way because the paycheck stops. Their status in society stops. See, that's what this main character in this film, The Black Demon, was saying. He was so resistant to the idea that I'm not going to get mine anymore. He's proud of his position. He's proud of the home he owns. He's proud of the family that he has. He's proud of the money he makes. He's proud of the clothes that he wears. And he keeps saying, nobody's taken that away from me ever. I'm going to keep all of those things. I earn them by doing what I'm doing, and I'm keeping that. That's my stuff. Well, this is a perfect portrayal of the satanic mindset that he has to work to come out of in order to find his way back to doing the right thing.
Right.
And saving the day, so to speak.
That's a full ego mindset. Just
pure egotism. That it represents the very first satanic tenet. Egotism, the ego run rampant, the ego being placed in the position of godhood. Powerful themes in that respect. So,
absolutely.
And that's the thing, is people have to be explained to what is Satanism, what is the satanic mindset. They don't really comprehend that yet. Still to this day, I've been doing this for 16 years, and I still, in just about every human being that I encounter, insists that Satanism is what Hollywood and their priest told them that it is. Their clergy member told them that it is. And these people are lying to you. They're not just wrong. They're overtly lying to you. They know what it is, and they're lying to you to keep you ignorant of it. Hollywood is lying about what they tell people Satanism is. Satanism is pure egotism run rampant. If you're a totally egotistical person, you're a Satanist. It doesn't mean you're worshiping the devil. This is the idea that this is what Satanism is what the church wants you to think, because they're in on it. They're part of it. Some of them, many of them at the highest position of power, are Satanists, and they don't want people to know what Satanism is. What do you think? They haven't infiltrated religion? They've infiltrated big business, banking, every corporation, the media, the schooling, education, the military, the police, but they just haven't infiltrated religion. That's safe. That's over here, and that's safe. That's insulated from all of their influence and power. Right. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's so true. And that's going to probably make a lot of people uncomfortable, Mark, hearing that they're living they have a satanic mindset, but it has to be said.
We're dealing largely with people in a naive and childlike mindset that doesn't want to believe that there's a vicious, snarling animal on the outskirts of the village getting ready to eat any child that wanders out there. It's like, no, that exists. That is present. There is a present and very recognized danger by the people with the intelligence to recognize it. The problem is you have very unintelligent people, you have very naive people, you have very childish people that don't want to even accept that this type of danger exists in our world, let alone how prevalent it is and how worked into every institution of worldly power it is everywhere you look. The problem is those people can't see it. They're not in those positions of power, and they have too non-sophisticated of a mind to even comprehend the way these people operate. Right. They're not operating at their level. Like, these people are playing, 12-dimensional chess, and you don't even understand what a piece on a checkerboard represents. Forget knowing how to play. You don't know what the board is. You don't know what the piece is. You know nothing.
That's so true. Yeah.
And that's the problem. This is the sad part of all of this for me, is that's what they told me. They told me exactly what I would be encountering in the world upon leaving their ranks, and they were 100% correct. And I wish I could say that they weren't. I want to be able to tell people these people were completely wrong about everybody, that their mindset is totally, yes, it's twisted and psychopathic, but are they incorrect? I want to tell people, no, they're incorrect about how they think of everybody. They're incorrect of what they think about is the right way to behave, yes. But are they incorrect about everybody else? No. They're telling the exact truth. They told me the exact truth of what I would encounter with other people, because they know all too well the number that they did on their minds. Yeah. They told me if they tried to wake people out of the trance, they would not collectively have the power to do it. Just think about that statement. They told me people are so enthralled, they're so in a trance that if we collectively made our best effort to take them out of the trance that our ancestors put them under and that we maintain them under, we could not remove them from that mental influence if we tried our damnedest. That's how powerful the trance-like mind state that humanity is in is. And see, I agree. They don't have that power. Who does have that power? All of us.
Right.
As people wake up more and more, they have to come together to a full understanding of the occult, of Satanism, of the mind control methodologies, and of objective morality and natural law. And we have to propagate that and teach it to the masses of humanity. It's the only way things can ever possibly improve or change for the better.
That makes a lot of sense, Mark, and it's great. I love that you brought up natural law, because that was one of the first presentations that I ever found by you was your natural law seminar, which I've probably watched, and I'm not even joking, 4 or 5 times now, because there's so
Awesome.
much information in those 8 hours that you have to, at least for me, I have to keep watching it. Maybe I watch it like once a year. I try, just to refresh, because there's so much. And so I have trouble getting anybody to watch it. They don't want to put in the 8 hours, but they'll put in, 3 days of Netflix to watch a series, but we won't go there.
Yeah, they'll binge watch a TV show.
Yep. But don't ask them to watch something that might improve their world and their life. But anyways, so can maybe, now that we're talking about natural law, and can you maybe explain what the science of natural law and what it is and what it isn't? And the reason I'm asking you this, Mark, is because when I talk about natural law, I've had people actually say to my face that it sounds like another religion or another cult. And I want you to really address this, because this is what I'm running into.
Well, the first thing is natural law is an observable truth in nature. It's an observable reality that we can look at, we can witness over long periods of time. It's not something you're going to immediately see and sense in the moment, okay? Mm-hmm. So it's not like a fire that is lit, right? But what if we looked at something like erosion on a beach? If you brought somebody that never heard of the concept of erosion, and you said, these rocks are slowly being worn away, and the water is slowly moving this way, and they look at the rocks and they're like, you're out of your mind. They're there. They're mm-hmm. not going anywhere. And they're seeing the water pound down on them and then move back, and the rocks are still there. And you're like, well, 1,000 years from now, the beach is going to be back this way. Okay. Right. Because that's going to, the water, is going to be back this way, because that's what erosion is. Mm-hmm. It takes time. Natural law is the same way. It takes time to see it, to see its observed reality. But the effects of it can be seen if we look long term. Okay. So it is absolutely not a belief system any more than erosion is a belief system. Someone not knowing erosion would look at a person trying to tell them about erosion and say, that's a religion, that's a belief system. You have no evidence of that with your own eyes. How are you going to measure that? Mm-hmm. Because it would require 1,000 years of time to see the result. And most people don't have that long-term vision. Natural law is the exact same way. You have to see it in terms of long periods of time. So what is natural law? Natural law is essentially karmic consequence. It is the result of the behavior that we put into the world. It is the force which governs the behavior that we put into the world, and it brings the result to us so that we then must live it and experience it in our lives. So natural law is a set of universal, non-man-made, binding and immutable conditions that govern behavioral consequence for beings with the capacity to understand the difference between right behavior and wrong behavior. Let me say that again, and then we can break it down. Okay. Natural law is a set of universal, non-man-made, inherent, eternal, and binding conditions that govern the consequence of behavior of beings who have the capacity to understand the difference between right behavior and wrong behavior. So it's a set of laws. So first of all, what does natural mean? What does law mean? Natural comes from the ancient Egyptian netr, N-T-R, which means God or spirit. and the Sanskrit suffix al, which means related to, having to do with, concerning. Okay, we put those together. Related to, having to do with, concerning, nature, God, spirit. Okay, the force of creation. That's what natural means. It means it's inherent. It is not a construct of mind. It means it's inherent to nature. It's inherent to reality. It's built into the fabric of reality. That's what natural means. Natural means it is just in reality, and it is not a construct of the mind or an invented idea. Okay? Law means a condition that is both binding and immutable. Binding means it has an effect that cannot be escaped. It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter what time you go to. It doesn't matter what geographic region. It's operating universally and omnipresently and eternally. So it's binding. It has an effect. It's immutable. It's unable to be changed by anything or anyone. Cannot be changed by any process of humankind. Cannot be changed by any process, period, because nature put it into effect. Gravity is immutable. It's always operating. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it, whether you like it, whether you want it to exist, whether you know about it, whether you understand it. It doesn't care about those things. It's an impersonal force. The same with natural law. The creation of nature itself, God, spirit, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you want to call it. Inherent reality in nature placed these laws into existence, just like gravity, just like electromagnetism, just like any other physical law. So what does it govern? So it's a set of universal, non-man-made. Universal means it's operating everywhere. Non-man-made, inherent to nature, not created by human beings. Binding and immutable. That's what law means, right? Always having an effect, cannot be changed. Conditions, right? These are the operating conditions of these laws that govern, meaning they control. They control the result that we're getting based on the input. Okay, so if you heat up water to a certain point, a law governs what's going to happen to that water. It's going to start to boil and then eventually evaporate out of whatever container you're boiling it in. Right. So that's a law. That's the consequence of what happens if you apply certain conditions to the situation. Same with natural law. It governs the conditions. It's the conditions which govern the states of reality of whole systems of beings. Okay, so, and it governs the behavioral consequence of that whole civilization. The behavioral consequence means we create a condition through our behavior, and then we have to live within the consequential result of what natural law is actually bringing upon us based on the behavior that we chose to enact. Right. So, and again, it doesn't apply to the animal kingdom. People go, well, why don't lions who eat other animals, why aren't they just tortured by natural law? No, it has nothing to do with animals. Natural law has zero to do with Darwinism, with animals, with the survival of the fittest, with the law of the jungle. You have to throw all of those ideas out. It has nothing to do with that part of the natural world. Stop trying to apply what we witness and observe in the natural world regarding animals to natural law that applies to human beings, because we have a higher order of intelligence than the rest of the animal kingdom, or we should. We have the capacity for that higher order intelligence, whereas the animal kingdom operates purely or almost entirely on instinct response mechanisms and does not have the kind of brain and nervous system that is going to be required to do the kind of heavy lifting intellectually that is going to be required to truly understand the difference between right and wrong. You're not going to sit down with that lion as he's chowing down on the gazelle and say to the lion, let's discuss morality today. He's going to look at you like you're the next meal. Right. The animals have to be left out of this, except for how we treat them. The natural law applies to human beings and not to other animals. That's the bottom line when it comes to all of this, because we have the ability to cognize, discuss, philosophize regarding what is objectively morally right versus what is an immoral behavior. What is the difference between moral behavior and immoral behavior? If a being can cognize that, recognize it, if they have the capacity to cognize and recognize that and discuss it and philosophize about it, the natural law applies to them. If the being does not have those capabilities, the natural law does not apply to them. I want to make that abundantly clear, because there's still people that I have heard me explain this that still don't understand it has nothing to do with the animal kingdom. Yeah. It has entirely everything to do with the kind of beings that have the intellectual capacity to cognize and philosophize regarding the difference between right and wrong behavior. So if a right is an action that does not initiate harm against another sentient being, a wrongdoing is an action that does initiate harm upon another sentient being. So what are the wrongdoings? What are the transgressions against natural law? If natural law brings us the consequences for what we've done, what we're largely talking about here is we get negative consequence for doing things that do initiate harm, and we get positive consequence for not doing those things. Right. Yeah. Okay? We don't have to be angels. We just have to not do the harmful behaviors. The harmful behaviors are 7. There are only 7 of them: murder, assault, rape, theft, trespass, coercion, and deception. All of these are forms of theft in one form or another. Mm-hmm. Murder, the theft of life without right. Assault, the theft of bodily autonomy, bodily well-being without right. Rape, the theft of free will, sexual association. Murder, assault, rape, theft, the stealing of physical property, mm-hmm. which we don't have the right to do to another being's property. Trespass, that is taking someone's security in their living space, in their living domain. You're stealing that. You're stealing their security. Coercion, you're stealing someone else's free will, their right to make free will decisions, based on their own analysis of a moral situation, mm-hmm. of morality and truth. And then deception, you're stealing someone's ability to make informed decisions by deliberately lying to them, willfully lying and giving them inaccurate, false information that you know to be incorrect, to simply deceive and mislead them. That is also a form of theft. All the wrongdoings are forms of theft. So there's really only one commandment: don't steal. Don't engage in theft. Don't take property, rights, life, well-being, free will that does not belong to you to take. And this is the problem, is we as humanity believe that we are operating as gods on this planet and that we are allowed to steal with impunity. We are allowed to steal with no consequence unto ourselves. And what natural law is providing is all of the total unhealthy conditions and uncomfortable conditions that are attempting to show us you have stolen, you have taken that which does not belong to you, you have deceived, you have allowed deception to continue, you have coerced, you have allowed coercion to continue, you have done all of these immoral wrongdoings, and now you're going to have, that's the bed that you made, now you're going to have to lay down in it. Now you're going to have to live in that uncomfortable reality. Right. And it's bringing us those consequences. We're realizing the world is becoming a bigger and bigger prison. It's becoming more and more uncomfortable. It's becoming, we're having less and less rights, that more rights are being taken away from us. That's more true. Evil people are just being generated because morality is not being taught to the young. They're teaching them 56 gender identities, but they're not teaching them morality. Yep, makes sense. And who really cares about how anybody identifies, right? That's whatever they want. That's their business. I could really care less about any of that stuff. I don't find it even that important. As long as don't do these 7 things. That's what I care about. I care about stop engaging in these 7 behaviors, because that's what's going to improve the world. The world is not going to be improved by creating any new systems, technology, growing new kinds of food, growing food locally, procuring water, any new technologies regarding energy. Those are all great things. They are not going to be the catalyst or impetus that changes the world from a condition of slavery to a condition of freedom. Only willful choice to cease and desist in the harmful behaviors that I just named, regardless of what justifications there are to justify them, and regardless of anybody's position in society, namely if they're in so-called government. First of all, recognizing natural law, one would see government is morally illegitimate because it's based in coercion. There is no choice when it comes to government. It's forced upon everyone. Taxes are forced upon everyone. Yep. Licensure is forced upon everyone. Prohibition, depending on whatever the government, whatever substance government wants to prohibit at any given time, is forced upon everyone at the point of a gun. All of this is done coercively and under duress. If you want to tell people this is moral, this is immoral, right? Don't do those things, right? But their behavior actually does initiate harm. You have the natural right under the self-defense principle to stop them from doing it. Government is not that. Government is telling you because we have decreed, we see this as non-beneficial to our agenda and our likes and our preferences and our tastes and our whims. You may not do these things even though they are rights, and we'll come and we will harm you. We will initiate harm against you if we find you engaging in any of those rights. There is a right not to be stolen from. I have the right to defend my property from theft. When somebody says, I'll arbitrarily name a percentage of the fruit of your labor that I'm going to take and redistribute as I see fit, that's theft. That's not just theft, that's violence, that's coercion, that's duress. That's saying you'll have to worry about constantly my threat of violence against you if you decide you're not going to capitulate to that demand and you're going to keep what you've rightfully earned. Imagine somebody saying to another human being, I'll arbitrarily set a percentage any year, year over year. It could go up, it could go down, and generally it always just goes up. I will arbitrarily set a percentage based on what I think society needs, and we'll come and confiscate that every year, or we'll take your property, and if you resist, we'll throw you in a cage, and if you resist, we'll kill you dead. We'll murder you. Okay? Imagine that there are people who still believe that is moral and should continue to exist. Any person on this planet that insists that the behaviors that government enact is somehow moral and or necessary, you are believers and supporters of human slavery. I'm an abolitionist because I'm a moral human being. You would be the person on the plantation saying, whip that black slave more because he disagreed that you're allowed to take all his labor. Whip him harder. Get the house slave to whip him harder. That would be the person advocating for government. And yes, listener/viewer, I'm talking about you. I'm looking you in the eyes. I'm telling you, you would be that person. That would be you. That's the kind of heart that you have. That's the kind of brain that you have. That's what's inside your soul. If you think government is morally legitimate, it makes the person the biggest piece of immoral trash that there could possibly be. Because what you are advocating is the ownership and slavery of other human beings. And that is the most immoral thing that could possibly be advocated for or condoned. Right. Just condoning that makes someone a piece of human filth vermin.
I agree, Mark. It was so well said, and you make such great points. I get into these debates with people all the time about the legitimacy of government and who gives the. I even questioned, Mark, when I was a young person. I mean, I would ask my mom and my dad, like, who gives the government, like, who makes the rules? And my mom would say, well, the government makes the rules. I'd be like, oh, and then as a young mind,
They say it's our jurisdiction. What does jurisdiction mean? You go back to the original Latin, jus juris, which the word justice comes from, right? Jus, J-U-S. In classical Latin, it's spelled I-U-S. Jus means right.
Yeah.
And then the second part of jurisdiction, dicto dictere in Latin as a verb means to say or to speak. So it literally means, jurisdiction means to say what a right is, to speak the law, to say what is right. This is moral relativism, once again. It's not determining whether the behavior initiates harm. It's I say this is how it's going to be. That's jurisdiction. They're telling you right in the words that they use from the original classical Latin or Greek. Yeah. But most people don't know those languages. They don't know where English words are derived from. Not 80% of English words are derived from Latin and Greek and other Romance languages, just about.
That's fascinating too when you start breaking down words and learning what they really mean and how people don't realize what they're even saying. The words that they're actually saying even mean, and you make great,
like the word government. Government
break
literally
it down,
means to control the mind.
Yep.
And again, people will debate the ment part. Oh, what about concealment? It's the suffix ment comes from the noun mind, because a state or a condition must first exist in the mind. This is the first rule of occultism. Mentalism begets everything. Everything is derived from and has to stem from mental state first. You have to think something before you can create it into existence. With your hands or with technology, it first has to formulate in the mind, in the world of forms, in the world of thought, the causal world, before it comes into the manifested world, the plane of effects.
Right.
So in occultism, this is a given. This is just known. This is just these are like the ABCs, and the average person doesn't understand that. So when they hear ment, that's just a state, a condition. And they're saying it like, oh, I'm so right, like, and you've proven me wrong. No, I've told people why ment was chosen as the suffix for the state of or the condition of, because it actually means mind, and that's where everything has to start before it manifests as a condition in the world. This isn't rocket science, folks. This is just thinking something through logically based on the root meaning of the word etymologically. And gubernare, the verb in Latin where the word government comes from, like a gubernatorial election, an election of a governor, a controller, means to control, to rule. So you can't have a state where the people are ruled until the mind is ruled. And that's why government literally means mind control. And yes, it does.
Wow, it's incredible, and I just think that how many people do buy into this whole government, and that eventually they're going to vote their way out of this, or that this is going to be government's going to change anything and make anything better. It blows my mind, Mark, that people even think that, because you just look at history, it's never worked.
I ask people just look at rulership and kingship and royalty.
Yep.
Was that ever moral? Was there ever a moral king? Was there ever a king that had the right to rule over his subjects? I mean, just think about the concept of royalty. My genetics and my bloodline make me better than you. This is what the Nazis wanted. They wanted the new form of royalty, which was a certain class of people within their society that was acting as the gods, the government, the rulers, right, would rule over all the slaves, and they worked them to death. They would provide all the things, the work that they didn't want to do. All you have to do is really read the Nazis' writings to see how sinister their mindset was.
Right.
They literally were saying, we're going to take whole classes of beings, even in just geographic regions, and we're going to make them into work slaves. We're going to work them. That's all they're going to do. We will breed generations of people just to be slave workers and work them to death in camps to provide all the things that we want, so we don't ever have to do any of that labor. Literally, that was their plan. That was part of the New World Order plan under the Nazis.
Right.
And think about it. That's just a continuation of the old world of royalty. This is how kings and queens thought. These people belong to us. They'll do our bidding. Whatever we say, if they don't do it or if they resist, we'll send our army against them. We'll send our henchmen against them. Was that ever a moral situation? Was that ever something that anybody ever had the right to do? Kingship and queenship was always immoral. It was never a moral situation. It was never a right. Yet these people believed that they had the divine right to do this, that they were backed by God. See, this is the sickness of the satanic mindset. These people believe they're either backed by God or they're God itself. They believe they're God, or they believe they're on the way to becoming God. Royalty is the same mindset. We're the gods on this planet. Screw you. We don't care what you want. We don't care what your rights are. We're taking everything. We own you. We're claiming that you're our subjects. Subjects means that you're their slaves. It's just a euphemism for slave, you know? And their system was feudalism. Feudalism means you don't really own any property. We own all the property. You'll pay taxes to us to be allowed to live on the property. Well, that's what a property tax is. Property tax comes directly out of ancient feudalism. And people still don't know this and advocate for it. And then the next thing that people like that will tell you is, I'm a moral person. They'll say that they're a good being, that they're a good human being. Right. Imagine the lies that they speak about themselves. Imagine that. And no, this isn't self-righteousness on my part for anybody thinking that. This is the truth of the matter. I'm not in that mindset. I've purged that Satanist mindset out of my mind. I have purged it from my being and soul. While other people who still believe in this nonsense and drivel called royalty, government, and slavery, they have not purged that Satanism out of their heart and their soul. They still have it deeply entrenched in their black heart. Watch the movie Black Demon, because it is about the black demon that lives inside the heart of everybody who believes they're God. Everybody who believes they're God. And there isn't a God of creation setting the laws of nature that we're bound by, that we must live according to. No. You know? And this has nothing to do with religion, folks. This is a science of nature and how the world actually operates. This is observable. This is repeatable. You can you could put forward a hypothesis on how it works, and then you could test the hypothesis. You do need large portions of time to test it, however. And that's what I say. All you have to do is look at the end result, and you'll see were the conditions moral or immoral, were the chosen behaviors moral or immoral over time. It's a very easily observable and repeatable process. What we have right now is a state of human slavery. Yep. We have covert slavery operating under duress, which is the implied threat of violence should one not agree and cooperate with the commands of government called laws. And then if you don't agree, violence comes down upon you directly physically. So there is physical violence, but it is in still a largely covert form operating through duress. It's moving toward overt violence, more and more and more and more, where we're going to get back to overt feudalism under a king, under a ruler, or a body of rulers. That's where it's heading, because people don't understand the difference between right and wrong. They don't even want to know the difference between right and wrong. Imagine, here's a big social experiment. Do this one.
Okay.
Everybody go out and ask people, do you think it would be moral for one being to rule over everybody else? Would it be moral for one human being to just make the laws that everybody else has to live according to, but according to his preference or hers?
Okay.
So you have one ruler. That's called kingship or royalty. That's the old world order. This is how human beings implemented this system of slavery in our ancient past. Not so ancient. Only a couple hundred years ago did it really cease in earnest with the American Revolution and the French Revolution. But my point being, ask people today, how many people think that that would be moral, that that would be okay? And, you know, I would hope you would get a lot of people that would say, no, that wouldn't be moral. But I'll bet you the majority of people, my guess, my educated guesstimate would be, it would be over 50% who would say that's perfectly fine and that would be a moral situation. You would get less than half saying that's immoral on its face and should never be done. Less than half. So I'd still think we're above 50% that believes in royalty. And then ask them, if you just had a few human beings making all of the decisions about how everybody else should live and then implementing that down into society through force, through duress, implied violence, that if you don't do what they say, violence is going to happen unto you. Is that morally okay? And I'll bet you the number would climb rapidly to how many people would say, yes, that's fine, because more people did it, right? And then you say, what if we did a pure straight democracy and we just did a vote? And if it's over 50%, that 50% can implement their will on other people and keep them under duress. And if they don't want to live like that, they can do violence to them if they resist. And I'll bet you almost every person would say that's perfectly justifiable and morally okay. This is how deranged, this is how sick and twisted and imbalanced and in a total mindset of Satanism the majority of planet Earth and its people are. That's where we're at.
That is so disturbing, Mark. And the way you broke that down, I am going to ask people that too, because I'm going to be shocked, I think, like you said, of what I'm going to get. I was already shocked at asking rights. So what a right is.
You'll be horrified. I've done social experiments like this, and you cannot even conceive of how totally degraded morally the mindset of the people of Earth actually is. They want slavery. They love the condition of slavery. They hear the solution to what will stop and end human slavery, and they don't care. They don't want it. They want no part of it. They don't want to learn it. They don't want to listen to that wisdom. They want to be God. They want to condone other people who want to be God and their immoral behavior and actions, and they want it to go on and on and on, because if they didn't, it wouldn't and it couldn't, according to natural law. If they were actually acting against those interests, if they were actually acting in accordance with natural law, if they were actually saying the word of all power, no, to evil, the world could not stay in the condition that it's in, and it certainly couldn't get worse and worse and worse as it is.
Great,
The overwhelming majority of human beings are in such a state of immorality in their mind and in their hearts. This is the mark of the beast. That's the true mark of the beast, is what someone carries in their mind and in their heart that will then lead them to do immoral behaviors with their hands, with their body. And they'll keep offering justifications for it over and over and over, as if that somehow magically turns all the evil that they're doing and condoning into something that's perfectly morally okay. That's what a justification is. It literally means to create a right. So again, jus, we looked at jus in jurisdiction,
yep.
Justification, jus juris. In jurisdiction, it's the genitive variant of the word, the possessive case, juris, right? Jus, justification. Again, no J in classical Latin, I-U-S, but we would spell it J-U-S, jus. Jus juris. Jus means a right. And then ficeo ficere means to make or to create. To create a right. It's right in the word that someone speaks. Justification means to create a right. A right cannot be created. It's a property that's inherent to creation itself. Human beings can't create rights. Rights came from the creator of the universe when that force created the universe. Rights were born with all of the other laws in nature. This is what people don't understand. This has nothing to do with a religious belief. I am the antithesis of a believer. I am the antithesis of anybody with a religious mindset. I am the most radical skeptic, but I have looked into nature perhaps deeper than most people ever will to understand its workings and its operational laws, and this is one of them. If you believe this way, if you condone this way of thinking and believing, and then if you feel that it's perfectly okay, you're justifying the behavior, you're justifying all this immorality, and then your actions are even in harmony with that immorality, what do you expect is going to be the result that's going to be brought back to you by the laws of creation? Goodness, justice, freedom, prosperity? No. You're mentally ill. This is literally like saying I'm going to expose this cup of water to violent flame, and it's going to stay intact, and the water's just going to stay in there.
Yeah.
You're a madman. It would be pure insanity.
It really is.
The purest of insanity.
It really is.
And that's where we're at.
Well, look at the world, Mark, where we're at. I just keep telling people, is the world getting better or is it worse? And everybody's like, oh, it's getting really bad. And I'm like, look, that's because where our morality is. Until our morality increases, we're going to keep getting it worse and worse. And it's just, and nature,
right.
natural law will provide that because we're creating it.
And it doesn't care. This is
people
not a being.
Don't like to hear that.
It's not a personal being.
Yep.
It's not something that goes, oh, you've suffered enough, but oh wait, you still don't get it. Oh, we'll let you just continue on in your ignorance and keep doing those behaviors, and you won't suffer anymore because you've had enough. It will put you down. It's not going to abate. It will continue on and on and on because it's just a law. It's not something that's going, oh, has he had enough yet? You know, even though he didn't learn the lesson, have we been hard enough on him? It doesn't work like that. Gravity doesn't care whether a 2-year-old toddler is wandering over the edge of a cliff. Mm-hmm. It's going to go splat, just like an 80-year-old would. Yep. It's a law that's in operation that's very impersonal and does not care about you. You know,
and that's tough for people to hear, I think, because they think it's personal. And
right.
It's not. It's this is what we're generating, and we're going to keep getting more of it.
That's it. And it all comes down to morality. As morality increases, freedom increases. As morality declines, freedom declines. And you could add all of it in. As morality increases, freedom, peace, justice, harmony, prosperity increase. As morality declines, freedom, peace, harmony, justice, prosperity all decrease. What's going on in the world? Observe and extrapolate. This is the scientific method.
Yep.
This is a science of morality. This has nothing to do with belief. This is not a belief. This is not a religion. All belief systems and religion should be exterminated. Let me just say that again with extreme emphasis. All belief systems and religions should be exterminated. I believe in the extermination of all religion because all religion is some nonsensical belief system that people cling to like a dead corpse. That's all it is. And I'll be very harsh about it in my wording because religion has created all the problems of this world. And I'm not talking about the cultural religions alone. You know, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, etc. Mm-hmm. You can go on and on with cultural religions. That doesn't mean that's all that religion entails. Religion is thinking that is incorrect. Religion is thinking that is not in harmony with the laws of nature. Religion is thinking that provides things that are the opposite of what we say we want when we believe in them and act upon them. Well, yeah. That's what a religion ultimately is.
So government
it's something
is a religion.
That holds us back from the truth. Government is a religion.
Absolutely.
The monetary system and the love of money is a religion.
Wow.
The belief in authority is a religion.
Yeah.
Authority is a religion in and of itself. The idea that some beings are masters and some are slaves. Some have the right to rule. Some have the obligation to obey. That's a religion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's tons of religions. I mean, we can go on and on just talking about what people don't consider a religion that actually is a religion. It's a false belief system that doesn't get you to where you say you want to go. It holds you back from getting there. That's all religion is. And that's the force that is ultimately ruling the world. And the thing that has to really be developed is true science, and true science from a henceforth occult perspective, meaning it has been hidden and we have to bring it out of hiding. We have to explode it onto the world in common sense form such that everybody understands it and it becomes common sense knowledge. That's what the great work is to do. That's why I started One Great Work Network. That's why I did What on Earth is Happening and all the lectures and podcasts that I did and still do today. You know, only education is the answer. Proper moral education is the only thing that can get us out of this mess. If we understand how natural law and objective morality works, if we understand what the mindset of humanity has been and where it really has to transform and go to become free, then we have to morally educate other people. We have to put our voice out into the world widely and freely through technology such as what we're doing here today over the internet, and morally educate our fellow human beings. That's the only solution, and it's the only way out.
And what I think another part, you make such great points, Mark, and I think another thing that people don't like to hear is that this is going to, they always want an external savior. And I always tell people that the answers, you have to work on yourself. And I think that's the one thing that people shy away from the most. When you
don't
tell
want to
them,
hear it.
They don't want to hear that they have to change themselves and work on themselves.
This is exactly what Jesus said, and how many people ran from that message. The kingdom of heaven is within. That's it. If you change what's going on in your mind and your heart and your behaviors, that's when heaven will manifest on earth. But not a second until, not a millisecond until. And this is the problem. People think externally the situation can change when they themselves have not changed. You look at the dynamic of what's inside most people. It's rotten to the core. Yeah. Rotten to the core of what they think and believe. Their beliefs are fucked up.
Absolutely.
And until they unscrew up those beliefs and then unscrew up their behaviors and what they're condoning, don't expect the world to change for the better. It will rapidly decline and get worse and worse and worse. And that is not a prediction. That's a spoiler, because it's operating like that according to law.
Well said, Mark. And it's so, you're making such truth and really breaking it down, because these, as I was telling you before we started recording, I'm just asking things that I've ran into talking to people about what we're talking about. So I'm glad we got some clarification.
Great points too. I love doing that. These are sticking points for people that we have addressed here today. Yeah. And that's a great lead in for an interview, because it shows you where do we need to get around what people think, what they've been conditioned to think. How do we break that resistance that is all built up through mind control in their mind? This is what people think. And we have to understand how to address those concerns that they have. And yeah, they're rightful concerns. When people say these things, they want a legitimate, logical answer to them. And I hope that I've provided some here today in this interview.
You did. I really think you did, Mark. And the one, it is kind of really can bring it full circle, because as we were talking and we've been addressing government and how it is slavery, and I've had people, and I'm sure you've gotten this over the 16 years a million times, that how can a world run without any government, without any authority figures? And then it kind of came to me as the more I thought about it, and I don't want your thoughts if I'm on the right path with my thinking, but as I kind of thought about it, like, okay, how would the world ever get out of that system? And I thought, well, if people's morality is increasing and they're doing the work on themselves, government, people won't believe in it then, and it's going to kind of fade away into oblivion. Right. Am I right thinking this way?
Absolutely. It wouldn't be necessary if people were behaving morally. And it's not necessary even if they're behaving immorally, because it's more immoral behavior. You can't add more immoral behavior to the mix and come out with morality. Only education can do that. So the answer is that it would work in a lot of different ways. And sometimes it wouldn't work. And sometimes it would fail. Some people would get hurt. You can't be afraid of a negative outcome. You can't be afraid that there might be a chaotic situation in many different places. You can't be afraid that we would really stumble through it badly, right? You have to allow for all of those possibilities, because that's what's allowing for learning and growth and real freedom. So the answer is, in certain situations, if people just didn't do it on their own, it wouldn't get done. People, how would roads get built? Well, either people would come together with knowledge and get it done and get the job done, if roads were even really truly needed, because we could have hovering vehicles of all kinds, of all different technologies by now already, if we didn't have violent people being supported by the monetary system, killing people who were inventing technologies that could challenge the oil industry. But that's a story for another day. Right. If people didn't get the job done, then it wouldn't get done. Why are so many people afraid of that? Like, when people say, well, what government pays for and constructs roads, right? First of all, it doesn't. We do. It's stolen from us to do that. Don't you think people would want roads in existence if that's the only technology they could get around on? Yep. They would want it. They would put their money toward it. They would get it done. And if they didn't, it wouldn't happen, and you wouldn't travel that way. You'd be stuck where you're at. Oh, well, is my freedom worth more than having roads? Yeah. My freedom is worth more than having fucking food.
Yeah.
I'd rather starve than be a slave.
Agreed.
My freedom is worth more than my life. I'd rather die than be a slave. Why are so many people, you're so worried about a life discomfort that you're like, oh yeah, I'd rather be a slave. I'd rather have slavery. I mean, just imagine the mindset. First of all, to even ask the question. I'm not a fearful little chump, punk, little boy, little girl. I'm not a fearful little punk kid. I'm a real adult man. And a real adult woman would say the same thing. I'm not worried about the what if. I'm not worried about what's going to happen to me. I know the self-defense principle. So if somebody comes trying to do some immoral shit to me, they're going to have to be a lot more worried about me than I'm going to be having to worry about them. Trust.
Yeah, that
Like,
makes
know your own name. Trust that.
Exactly. And you kind of answered, because I had my last question, because I did have somebody say, who would, if there was no government, no police, no military, who would, basically they were saying, who would dish out the justice for people doing wrongdoings? You answered it, self-defense.
Every single person has the right of self-defense under natural law. So, and I just spilled my water. I've never spilled a drink in an interview that badly.
I don't think I got you worked up, Mark.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. But you did answer my last question.
Is the perfect place to
drop it,
because now I have a whole area of my floor to clean up.
All right, Mark. Do you want a minute just to let people know what you're up to before we end it? I'll let you end it on the what are you up to? What you got coming up?
Sure. So, first of all, my main website is whatonearthishappening.com. All of my information is there, including all of my podcasts, all of my presentations and interviews, such as this one. You can visit that website, whatonearthishappening.com. I always recommend people to go through the podcast section from number 1 forward without skipping around, in order. 1, 2, 3, and on. And you'll see the natural progression of the ideas in that podcast. They will paint a very, very orchestrated tapestry for you to understand what's really going on in this world. And then I have coming up in October a all-day presentation, one of my first all-day presentations that I'm going to deliver since probably around 2015 or 16. 2016, I think, was my last one. And it's called Two Masks, Same Face: The Dark Occult Origins of Nazism and Communism. This is going to be a huge thesis for me that I've been working on for many years, that I'm going to show the shared dark occult origins in Satanism, in dark Luciferianism. Basically, these are two factions of the same occult religion that have been handed to us as political ideologies and political factions over the last century. And I'm going to be talking about all of the people and the groups and the organizations that led to the formation of both Nazism and communism, and showing how they all have common occult roots. So that's coming up this October 21st, and tickets are available now on my website at whatonearthishappening.com. That's my next major event. And then, of course, coming up in this summer, in July, I am teaching the How to Become the True Media seminar. How to Become the True Media is an online technology seminar that shows people how to do work like this. How do you create a podcast or a video podcast? How do you make a website? How do you publish content? It's how to become a media creator in your own right, so that you can propagate your own voice out to others and morally educate them. This is called How to Become the True Media. We're still accepting enrollments up through the 4th of July, and the seminar starts on July 10th. It's 23 weeks long, and it goes until December 11th of 2023. And you can get more information about the curriculum of this course and how to enroll at howtobecomthetruemedia.com. Awesome. So that's what I have coming up in the near future.
Mark.
And I want to just thank you again for all the work that you're doing as part of One Great Work Network. You've been a tremendous content creator. And I want to thank you for everything that you've done to advance the One Great Work and for this great interview. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's been an incredible interview. And I just want to, before I let you go, let everyone know that they have to take, if they want to do this, they have to take your How to Become the True Media course, because it was a game changer for me. It doesn't just teach you about tech. You can apply it in your life, and that's almost like you can learn things to apply like that you can incorporate into your life.
That's right.
It's amazing. And what was really cool is that I had the fear of tech before your class. Like, I started only a year and a half ago, only had a phone, and I was scared of technology. I was petrified to try to learn anything, and your course really walks you from the beginnings. You start right at the very basics, and then it builds up. And so please take it, guys, if you want to do any type of media, because it's incredible. So I just wanted to let you know that, Mark. It was a real game changer for me.
Thank you so much, Rick. I appreciate that great testimonial there.
Awesome. And so you have a great day, Mark. Thank you so much. I'm going to let you go because I know you got water going on.
A spill to clean up.
Oh, definitely. And I will definitely keep in touch and keep doing what you do, Mark. You're incredible, and your work is incredible, and it's so needed more now than ever. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Rick, thanks again. Have a great one.
All right, you too. Take care, Mark. Well, there we go, guys. Wow. I am so excited and so happy that I finally got to get Mark onto my show a year and a half ago. If you would have told me that this day was going to happen, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have said, and especially if 4 or 5 years ago when I first came across all of his work and his podcast and all his presentations, I would have said you're crazy. But it's incredible where you focus your energy and what you truly feel in your heart is right and what you fight for. It all kind of happens. It comes into alignment. And getting Mark on here for this interview was so important to me and incredible. He really did change everything, how I looked at it. I was saying at the beginning, I've always been a seeker of knowledge. I want to find truth. I wanted to learn, the things, how things work. And as I was saying, I always kind of had all these pieces, but you can't it was hard to put the puzzle together, exactly what's going on. And when you start listening to Mark's work, then you begin to see this tapestry and just how evil it really is. As Mark was saying, we have a fight up against us. We really do. And take Mark's challenge like I did. Go out and talk to people face to face and start asking them some simple questions. Just even what is a right? And you're going to be shocked, I promise you guys, at what people are going to tell you. And then just start getting into dialogues with people like you, if you can. I enjoy doing that because it truly does give me a gauge on where society is. A lot of the times, you start talking to people, you can get if you listen and do, some back and forth, you're going to get a good gauge of where their mindset is. And then the more you start doing this with people, you're really going to learn quickly what we're up against. And it's incredible. Like the Satanists have done their job well. And it's like Mark said, they've infiltrated everything. So that's the battle that we're up against. And it always seems to come back to having to do the work yourself, take in this knowledge, and then really work on yourself. And then once we start doing that, that's when I was saying near the end there with Mark, that's the only way that's going to change. You're not going to vote this problem away. This is a soul sickness problem and definitely a morality problem. And until people start, figuring this out, we're just going to keep getting more and more of what's coming. And so it's the work that people have to do on themselves. That is what it always seems to come back to. And the part that people are missing is that working on themselves. They see, and some people even take in the knowledge. They do that, but they don't internalize it. They don't take in it and work on themselves. And they definitely don't do the action part, which is most important. Is, you have to take in this information, you have to be willing, you have to care enough, and then work on yourself, and then put that information out there in whatever way you're good at, whatever way you're comfortable with, whatever unique way you want to, but at least the action part is necessary. So I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. I know I did. I thank you once again, Mark. I appreciate you so much, and this was incredible. I hope everybody's going to really think about what was said today, and really start making some changes in their lives. And I just hope, we keep doing the good fight. We need more people. That's all I can say. We need more numbers, because that's what we're lacking too, is numbers, guys. So, wow. Anyways, before I go, I just want to go ahead and let everybody know it is coming up quick, guys. Really quick, actually. The Trivium, Knowledge, Understanding, Wisdom. This is a 2-day event live June 24th and 25th. If you want to register, it is free. Just head over to freedomundernaturallaw.com. And it's going to be an incredible event, guys. Look at all the amazing speakers that we have going on here. We have my guest today, Mark Passio, of course. We got Will Keller. We got music by Diesel Automatic. We got Brandon Martin. We got Richard Grove. We got James True, Leslie Powers, Douglas Martin, Mario West. I can name, look at all the names. I can't go through them all, but look at them all. Incredible. This is a 2-day event, and there's going to be so much knowledge passed here, so much information. So please mark it on your calendars, guys. The Trivium, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. As I said, it's free, so no excuses, guys. Just head over to freedomundernaturallaw.com, register, and be there for those 2 days. And what makes this event so unique to me is that at the end of each day, there's going to be a round table with the speakers for that day, and you will have a chance to ask them live any questions that you have, any clarifications that you need. You can do it at the end of each day with the people that were presenting for that day. So if you have any questions, make sure you write them down, guys. At the end of the day, you can ask them. And to me, that makes this event truly unique, truly special, because the round table is one of my favorite parts of it. A lot of interaction, and I really do enjoy that, guys. So be there, guys. Make sure you mark it on your calendar. June 24th and 25th. It's coming up close, guys. So once again, thank you for checking out this video. Thank you once again, Mark, for being here. Incredible. So much powerful information spoken about today. And I really do appreciate you guys. Let me just go ahead here and get back up here. There we go. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. I truly do, for all your support, all your encouragement. And just remember, nobody is better at being you than you, man. You are the greatest. Go out there, learn, and do the great work, guys, because we need you. We need your numbers. We need your voice into the battle here. We have to start fighting back, or we're just going to keep getting more and more of what we're already getting. And I hope most people don't want that. So thank you guys once again. Take care. I'll be back very, very soon with another incredible interview. I got some great interviews lined up for the next month, like the month coming up. June, we are rocking, guys. We got some great guests coming up. So please, like, share, subscribe, turn your notifications on so you guys know when I got another interview coming up. I'm going to try to get one up once a week. Thank you guys so much. Take care. Peace.
Are you interested in the paranormal? Murder mysteries, cryptocurrency, and thought-provoking interviews? Then check out Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking on YouTube, or every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Studio A at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Welcome to the Crypt.